Welcome back, guys, to the Andrei Delic Podcast. Okay, guys, today's going to be an episode. There's been this big documentary on Netflix. Most of you guys probably watched it. Really trending. Louis Theroux, he's an amazing documentary-making person. He makes a lot of documentaries, and he's really good. That's his job, right? So he made a documentary on something that is really trending for, I would say, for what, like the past 5 years, maybe, probably even before that it existed. But for like the past 5 years, ever since COVID was there, like Andrew Tate can be seen as like the godfather of the Manosphere. Then you have other people like Sneeko, HS Tiki Taki, fucking stupid ass name, but hey, HS Tiki Taki. Jay Waller, the guy, like the white guy with the fucking red hair who always hangs around Tristan Tate and Andrew Tate. He's basically like their little bitch, if I'm being honest. He's always there fucking dick sucking them and whatever. So he did a documentary on the Manosphere. And if I might add, he also... the guys from the Fresh and Fit podcast was Myron Gaines. Myron Gaines. He also became really popular through his sexist remarks. I mean, I'm not a big feminist, but I'm also not a sexist. And what these guys say, that's pure sexism. That's like literally saying, there's a difference between saying, you know what, there's a difference between a guy with a high body count and a woman with a high body count, and then saying literally that a woman shouldn't be allowed to vote and that they should stay in the kitchen and shut the fuck up. There's a huge difference between those two. Huge fucking difference. But the Manosphere, especially Myron Gaines, with his podcast Fresh and Fit, which is basically, his podcast Fresh and Fit is basically bringing a lot of women who aren't the smartest people on planet Earth. Not because they're women, but simply because those women, who they are as individuals, they're not the smartest individuals that exist. And then they ask them questions to make them look dumb in front of the camera. Although, granted, they do ask really fucking easy questions. Like I think I said last podcast, they ask questions like, name me 3 countries, and they fucking say France and then Barcelona. So I mean, at the same time, I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, the questions they are asking is really fucking simple. But they bring women generally physically attractive, depends who you ask. Not the most attractive in my opinion. But they bring physically attractive women, and then they make them look dumb, and they make them realize, or at least they try to make them realize in front of a camera, that this whole new wave of feminism, of OnlyFans, of selling your body for money, women only caring about money, and also they also talk a lot about how the dating market now in 2026 is so competitive. They keep on talking about it, how men need to be at the top of their game. They need to be at the A+ of their game in order for them to have as much success as they can in the dating market. I'll get more into it later, but that's what Myron Gaines, with his podcast, which is actually really, really popular, Fresh and Fit podcast, that is what they mostly and generally talk about, is how the modern woman is dumb. Of course, I'm generalizing, and I'm doing like an overall conclusion of what Myron Gaines and his podcast, Fresh and Fit, what they represent, right? So it's the modern woman is dumb. Modern woman is toxic to society. 2026 dating market is more vicious than it ever was. We need to go back to traditional values. Man should have the right to have multiple sexual partners. Women should only have the right to have one. She's not allowed to be unfaithful, although men are allowed, if that man is of a high status, meaning he makes a lot of money, has power, has high social status, looks good, all the other gist that goes with it, that goes with a man being of high status. So that is what they mostly talk about. And on top of that, they talk about how like these women only look for money. They're whores. They're not wifey material. They're not mom material. And that the modern woman just quote unquote is lost and isn't what she used to be before in the 50s and 60s, where it was where women had more of a traditional role of staying at home, cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids, not working, not voting, not having anything to say, any say when it comes to politics, business, or whatever. And the guy, his job is to protect and provide, go out in the world, make money, take risks, take chances, go out and vote, politics, business, Men are for society, to make society better. They run society whilst women stay at home, take care of the kids, fold the laundry, clean the house, serve dinner and whatever. That is mostly the image they have. And also talking about, like I said, now it's going to be an episode where I speak my mind and I express myself regarding the manosphere. So in general, the manosphere, like I'll tell you in general what it talks about. So it talks about polygamy, how men, high status men should have the right to have multiple sexual partners, women especially. They also talk about a history and origin of it. Polygamy, woman body count and man body count. They have this opinion of a man with a high body count is high value, is high status, and a woman with a high body count is low value, low status. I talked about it many times. Like I said, I'm going to talk about the manosphere. It doesn't mean that it's all bad. There are some things that are good about the manosphere. The whole big thing, like if we circle it all and we take the globality of it, the manosphere, there are good things and there are also bad things. So I'll say what I believe to be good, why I believe to be good, why I believe for it to be good, and I'll talk about what is bad and why I believe that it is actually bad. Those certain topics in regarding the manosphere. Polygamy, toxic masculinity with masculinity, toxic femininity and femininity, sexism / feminism, wokeness is also plays a big part in the manosphere. Neo-Nazism also plays a big part, blaming the Jews for everything and having anti-Semitic views and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories also plays a big part in the manosphere. So Jew hatred, conspiracy theories. There's also self-development. Yes, there are multiple bad things from the manosphere, although it's the question is to what degree and what is actually bad, what isn't bad. It's not all good and it's not all bad, the manosphere. It's like a mix of everything. And they do talk a lot about self-development, which is something that is really good. Man or woman, straight or gay, liberal or conservative, black or white. Self-development is good for every single human being. And that's a good thing that the manosphere prones a lot, to be the best version of yourself, to be in shape, to be healthy, to be financially set, to chase your dreams, to face your fears. They do talk about good things, and self-development is one of the main topics that encompasses and englobes the manosphere. And there's also, now that's really popular with Clavicular, the live streamer, looksmaxxing and plastic surgery, but mostly looksmaxxing for men and then plastic surgery for women. And then, of course, it being social media, like it or not, clip farm is a thing. Clips are the most important, and clip farming is a thing. And some people sometimes say something or do something in order for clip farming and to get good clips. So let's start off with the history and the origin of the manosphere. So from what I remember, me personally, because this is social media, and like it or not, we all have our relationship with social media and with different trends. Some people see those trends before they become famous, popular, or trending, and some people see those trends after or whilst it's becoming big and popular. But I feel like the manosphere in general, it's about masculinity, right? And I feel like since the dawn of time, humans and men have always been talking about masculinity. What's masculine? What's toxically masculine? What's just masculinity in general? What I consider to be good masculinity is someone who works hard, someone who faces his fears, someone who's brave, someone who protects and provides, someone who chases his dreams, someone who's outgoing, who's not afraid to approach women, who's not afraid to approach people for business opportunities or for growth. That is something that I consider to be good masculine values. To be a leader, it can be considered more of a masculine trait than a feminine trait to be a leader. To be able to protect and provide, I feel like that's a really good attribute to have as a man. I feel like that's good masculinity. But then, of course, we also have toxic masculinity, which in my opinion, toxic masculinity can be more in the sense of being afraid to admit, being afraid to be vulnerable, not being able to admit when you're vulnerable, not opening up, not seeking help when you actually need help. Like I said many times, depression is proven. It's a proven thing. It's not something that's fake. Although how can I say this? I feel like people from the manosphere, they play and they portray as depression something that is fake and something that's man-made. It's something that's made up. It's not. Depression is something that is scientifically proven by many doctors that it's something that when there is a chemical imbalance in your brain, which gives you bad mood swings and makes you depressive and gives you a down and doesn't make you joyful, doesn't make you happy, and it won't make you dominant because you won't produce certain hormones which will make you dominant, happy, good testosterone levels, and yada, yada, yada. So I feel like not seeking help when you actually need mental help because it's not masculine, that's something that I consider to be toxic masculinity. Because like it or not, men lie, women lie, numbers don't, and stats don't. Men, in general, commit way more suicide than women. Way more. Why? And the only reason why is because men don't open up. They keep everything bottled up, and they feel like if they do open up and they do talk about their fears, they do end up being vulnerable in front of their wife, in front of their psychologist, or in front of their friends, they'll be seen as weak. I just want to highlight that being vulnerable has nothing to do with being weak. And when you are capable of being vulnerable, that is actually when you are capable of also being the strongest version of yourself. Because if you're afraid to be vulnerable, you're never going to be powerful. You're never going to be strong. As human beings, no matter who you are, we're all weak. We're all gonna have certain time periods in our life where we'll be weaker, and when we will have it harder, and we will have battles inside. From the day you're born till the day you die, you will always have inner battles. Every single day, no matter who you are, it happens to everyone, and it's always going to be like that. But in order for you to deal with your demons, first of all, you have to face your fears, you have to work hard, you have to meditate, and you have to seek help if you need mental help. If you have suicidal thoughts, don't just put it to the side and then say, you know what, I'm a man, I don't talk about my feelings. That's toxic masculinity, in my opinion. A real man isn't afraid to talk about his feelings. A real man isn't afraid to be vulnerable. If you're a real man and you're afraid of something, a real man is going to have the balls to say, you know what? I'm actually afraid of this and this and that. You know what? I don't give a fuck. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm afraid of this. I said it. That's a fact. I'm afraid of it. I'm not perfect. No one is perfect. No one is fearless unless you have a fucking mental problem. Then maybe then you're not afraid of anything. But every single man, every single human being has fears. We all have fears. Now, if you're capable of admitting your fears, you're one step closer to facing your fears and then conquering your fears than the person who has fears. Because like I said, we all have fears, but he's not even capable of admitting that he has fears out of fear of looking weak in front of others, when that's not the case. When you're capable of being vulnerable, that is when you are the most powerful. So the person who admits that he fears something or that he has fears is one step closer to his dreams, to his goals, and one step closer to not having that fear, facing that fear, and conquering that fear than the person who, first of all, can't even admit that he or she fears what he or she actually fears. Huge difference between those two. The person who can admit his fears, his or her fears, is way more powerful and is way closer to conquering his fears than the person who can't even admit or won't admit that he or she has fears of something that he or she actually has a fear of. So I feel like that's also something that's considered to be toxic masculinity. If I might just quickly look at what ChatGPT has to say when it comes to toxic masculinity, what is considered by social media personalities to be as toxic masculinity, even by psychologists and just researchers in general. So yeah, like I said, in psychology and sociology, it usually refers to norms that pressure men to suppress emotions. That's really bad. And that's toxic masculinity. Suppressing your emotions, hiding your emotions, because you don't want to be seen as weak or vulnerable in front of other people, that's really bad. And that is toxic masculinity. And not only that, if you're not capable of, like I said, being vulnerable, you're always going to be weak for the rest of your life. Dominate others. Now, I feel like that's half-half. If you have ambitions of being powerful, of having power, of having high social status, there's nothing wrong there. And I don't see that as toxic masculinity. I just see that as someone who's ambitious. Now, if you have dreams of literally dominating other people and being able to tell them what to do and to have slaves, quote unquote, that's, first of all, a really dumb mentality because you're never going to be a king. I mean, in the Western world, it's never going to fucking happen. And second of all, you have some unresolved inner issues that you should actually seek help for by a professional or a psychologist. Equate worth with power, success, or status. Power, sex, or status. Reject vulnerability or help. Now that's dumb. If you need help, seek help. Believe me, there's nothing pussy about it. There's nothing weak about it. There's nothing feminine about it. Seeking help when you need help is actually very courageous and it's very masculine because you need help. It's a fact. You can hide all you want. Your brain, your subconscious mind, your conscious mind at night when you lay at your bed at 12 a.m. at night, when there's no one around, when it's only you and your thoughts, your brain and your thoughts doesn't give a fuck about your ego and about your pride. They don't give a fuck. The only thing they know is that your negative thoughts, the only thing they know is that they're currently winning and that they will keep winning if you don't seek help. They don't give a fuck. And even you know, for people who have mental health issues and who deep down know that they need mental help from a psychologist, they can act tough all they want. They can act like they don't need help all they want. At night, when they lay at bed at night alone and they're left alone with their thoughts, deep down, they know what is the truth. As much as you know what's the truth, as much as I know what is the truth. The truth doesn't have to be necessarily said, but at night, when we close our eyes, when it's only us with our thoughts, we all know what the fucking truth is. You can hide all you want in front of others in broad daylight. You can go to work and lie to your colleagues. No, I don't need help. Lie to your family members. But when you're left all alone with your thoughts at 2 a.m., laying in your bed and you can't fall asleep because your mind is fucking racing and your negative thoughts are constantly winning and troubling you, that is when you know what is real and what isn't real. So also, like I said before, equate worth with power, sex, or status. I disagree. Just because someone has power or status doesn't necessarily mean that he has more worth than someone else. That's not the case. Someone who's born from a royal family, I don't give a fuck. He's born into it. He didn't do anything to deserve it. He didn't show us how competent he is. He didn't acquire those skills. He was simply born in that family. His dad simply came inside of his mom, and because of that, he's going to be king. Let's say for king of Saudi Arabia. So for him to equate his status and his money to his worth, that would be dumb because, quote unquote, he didn't merit it. If that was a meritocracy, he would never be in that position. The only thing that happened is his dad came inside of his mom, he was born, and that's it. So to equate your worth to something that you don't even deserve, not that you don't deserve, but you didn't work for, or that you didn't earn by working hard, by being competent, by facing your fears, by becoming the best version of yourself, simply by being born. Now that's fucking dumb. And this also goes for everything else that you get, that you receive simply by being born. This also goes for women and for guys also, but mostly women. Guys also, especially in 2026, guys are way more vain than what they used to be. But this also goes for men and women who equate their beauty to their worth. Broski or mademoiselle, you were born that way. You were the god of beauty, the beauty of God. I don't know, Aphrodite, I don't know what her name is. She blessed you with beauty. You cannot equate your worth to your beauty because you were born like that. You didn't work for it. You didn't face your fears. You didn't strive to become the best version of yourself. You were simply born good looking. So for people who are good looking, women or guys, for them, when they equate their beauty to their worth, when they equate their worth to their beauty, that's really fucking dumb because you didn't deserve it. You were simply born out of luck. L'Oreal, I think that's the name of the god of beauty from Greece. I'm not sure. The god of beauty gave you that. You were blessed. You were lucky. But to equate your worth to something that you just simply got simply from being born, simply because your dad came inside of your mom, and then you're proud because you're born good looking, and then you're proud of your looks, that's dumb because you didn't deserve it. You were simply born that way. And this also goes for someone who was born into a rich family. For him then to inherit everything that his parents made, the fortune that his parents built. For him to be proud of that, in my opinion, is also really dumb because he didn't do anything to work for it. He didn't strive to become better. He didn't earn that money because he was competent. He didn't earn that money because he faced his fears and he became the best version of himself. He earned that money simply because he was born from his dad's balls, who just so happened to be a fucking rich ass motherfucker. So in my opinion, everything that is earned, not earned, but everything that is given to you simply because you were born, so looks, family, money, whatever else it might be, you shouldn't equate your worth to it, because that is not what you're worth. That is not what you're worth. What you're worth is, from the day you're born, what you do in life, the fears you face, how you become the best version of yourself, and do you reach the path and the destiny that God had as a plan for you. No matter who you are, no matter what your position is in life, no matter where you're born, no matter to who you are born, the only way that you can become the best version of yourself is by going through a lot of misery, is by facing your fears, is by working hard, is by doing things you don't want to do, but you do them because deep down you know that you have to do those things, and those things have to get done. That is the only way you can become the best version of yourself. I don't care if you're born into a rich family and then maybe you have the mentality of, but wait, I'm already born in a rich family. What is there for me to do? There's still a lot, because your goal in life, God made you for a purpose. He didn't simply make you simply so you can inherit your parents' money. He made you for a purpose. He wants you to strive and become the best version of yourself. Your soul, which came from another body, simply transferred into your body because your soul is still in search of something, is still in search to grow and to learn something from this world. And then when you will reach your full destiny, if you reach your full destiny, your physical body will die, but your soul will keep on living, and your soul will simply transfer into another body because your soul will have something else to learn. It's not all about money. It's not all about fame, status. Your soul is complete, is whole with the universe and with God. There is a bigger picture for your soul, that your soul has something to learn. The reason that your soul entered that body and that life is because that body and that life and those circumstances will teach something to your soul, and only that body, that circumstance, and that life has a possibility of teaching your soul what it has to learn and what it has to get taught. And once it learns everything that it can from that life, and then you die, it will simply transfer into another life and another body, and then learn something else that it has to learn in order to grow and become even more whole and even more connected with God and the universe. That's how it works. So, okay, what's something that's also considered behaviors that are also considered toxic masculinity? Emotional suppression, things like men don't cry. That's dumb. If a real man aren't afraid to cry. Real men don't give a fuck if they cry, and they don't give a fuck in front of who they cry, because they're not afraid to be vulnerable, because deep down they're not insecure of their masculinity and they know who they are. But now also at the same time, if you're a man who's constantly crying whenever he faces a little problem, that's also not good. That's also you just being a little bitch. Like I said, it's not all black or white, it's gray zones. Being a man who cries because his dad just died, that's showing vulnerability and that's showing your emotions, and there's nothing wrong there. But at the same time, being a man, being a guy who constantly cries whenever there's a little mishap that happens in his life, that's just a weak man. So it's a question of when it's normal to cry, when it's good to cry, and when it's just like, okay, you're being a crybaby. Both make sense. There is a time and a circumstance where it is normal and where it actually is healthy to cry as a man. And sometimes it's just like, yo, man up, toughen up, don't be a little crybaby, don't be a bitch. There's both, right? So that's why there's masculinity and there's toxic masculinity. There's both, right? And like I said, men who suppress their emotions, they have higher signs of depression, anger issues, and lower relationship quality. They also say that aggression as identity, needing to be physically or verbally dominant. Now, I'm like half-half, because as a man, for you to want to be dominant and for you to want to be the alpha male in your group or in your society or in just life in general, there's nothing wrong there. I feel like every man deep down wants to dominate and he wants to be the leader of the pack. Same goes for animals. Every single lion wants to be the fucking top G lion in the jungle. Every single lion wants it, right? Why? Because it's just something that's naturally inside of them. I feel like for men, it's the same. Not all men, maybe men who are more like artistic and they don't really care about money or power or status, they're not really gonna want to be as alpha or as dominant as someone who is in search of money, power, and status, right? Who's really ambitious. But in general, every single man wants to be as dominant and as alpha as he possibly can in his environment and around his peers, which is normal, and there's nothing wrong there. Now, I feel like maybe where it does get bad is if your search for you to be more dominant, more powerful amongst others, is something that's actually causing you to have depression, crippling depression, and is actually something that is causing you to be even less dominant because you're so into it that it actually doesn't even make sense anymore, and you're just actually really weak because you can't take failure and you can't take L. So whenever something happens in your pursuit of becoming more alpha, having more status and whatever, you just crumble because your ambitions are way too high for what you actually put in the work for. Then that's also not good. But simply having those ambitions of wanting to be more dominant and more alpha in a group of men or in your surrounding or in your peers or your city or your society, whatever, there's nothing wrong there in my opinion. There's nothing wrong there. And it's just someone who's really ambitious. Like, right? If someone gave me the chance, Andrei, you know what? You could be the most powerful man and the richest man on planet Earth. Would you want it? Well, of fucking course I'd want it. Like, who would say no, right? Any man who's slightly ambitious, and then the more ambitious he is, the more he wants it, there's nothing wrong there. But where I feel like maybe it can be bad is if your search for domination and to be an alpha male is actually fucking up your relationships, is making you someone who's very self-destructive, then that's bad. That's bad because you're just going backwards. While wanting to go forward, you're actually going backwards because your search and your need and wants to become so powerful and so dominant is actually causing you to be self-destructive in your own life and in your own relationships. Then what's the fucking point, right? What's the point? So that's where it can be seen as toxic. But if it's simply you waking up every single day happy, joyful out of life, and then having the goal, okay, today how much can I do? What is the most I can do in order to reach my goals, to become more successful, have more status, have more power, and have more money? And I feel like if you're someone that your only goal is money and power, first of all, you're never going to reach it. And second of all, even if you do reach it, you're not going to be happy because you're going to do whatever it takes to have money and power, even if it means doing things you don't want to do or doing things that you're not passionate about or that you don't have any love for. Then what's the point? What's the point of living life, right? Because at the end of the day, like I said, we live in a Western society. You cannot be a king. We're like, how dominant and how powerful and how much power can you actually have? Let's say the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, is technically, on paper, the most powerful man in Canada, right? What type of power does he truly have? Like Mark Carney as an individual, what type of power in a country like Canada, in a democratic, free country like Canada, what type of power does he truly have, right? He does have power, like or not. Like I said, on paper, he is actually the most powerful man in Canada. That's a fact. But what power does he actually have? I feel like people who have more influence than him, it's even better. I feel like now in 2026, especially with social media and then living in a country in a Western society where there's democracy and freedom, I feel like having influence is better than having power. Of course, maybe in Saudi Arabia, where there's literally a king and the king decides whatever he wants because he's literally a king over there and he has the power that just any king would ever have. I feel like there it's better to have power than to have influence. But in a society like Canada, like America, like France, like Germany, I feel like it's better to have influence than to have power. Because if someone asked me, Andrei, would you rather be Joe Rogan or Mark Carney when it comes to influence and power? I would choose Joe Rogan. Because yes, maybe on paper, Mark Carney has more power, but Joe Rogan has way more influence than Mark Carney. Because we live in a society where you decide who you want to follow. And like it or not, we live in a democracy. Mark Carney cannot just wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, from now on, women can't vote. He can't do that. Why? Because he doesn't have that power. Even when he wants to pass a simple law or a simple legislation, he has to talk to his team. There has to be debates with other parties, and then he has to vote on it. Yada yada, blah blah blah. There's like a huge process for a little small thing to pass, right? So I feel like now in 2026, especially in Western societies, if you're really ambitious, it's better to have influence than to have power. And you can gather influence, you can earn influence, you can become more influential by doing things that people are going to look up to you. The reason that Joe Rogan has so much influence is because people look up to him and people respect him and people follow him voluntarily. No one forces people to follow Joe Rogan. They follow him voluntarily because they respect him, because they value him as someone who is of high value for what he does, and they see him as a person with high influence. That's why we follow people like Joe Rogan or whoever else it may be. So I feel like in 2026 in Western society, it's better to have influence than to have power. But like I said, at the end of the day, being a man who is in search of power, fame, status, there's nothing wrong there, as long as it's not something that is destroying your soul, your mental health, and your important close relationships. If it's simply something that excites you for life and gets you out of bed all excited and all motivated and all ambitious, then that's really fucking good. Who doesn't want to have money? Who doesn't want to accomplish all of his dreams, and etc., right? It's all good and there's nothing wrong there. But if it's simply because you want power, you want status, you want money, no matter what you have to do because you want to prove a point to someone, you want to show others that you're the best, then that's just bad. It's self-destructive. And even when you will get power, status, and money, you're not going to be that happy because you're going to realize that, okay, first of all, it's not that fucking big. Because like I said, yes, you're maybe going to have power, but you cannot control people. This is fucking Canada. This is the democratic country. You don't have power over anyone technically. And money, I feel like money, I don't know, I'm not rich. I'm average, I would say. But I feel like when you have a lot of money, like after a certain period of time, you don't really give a fuck anymore. Like if you have one Lamborghini, like it or not, like yes, it's fun to have a Lamborghini, but having a Lamborghini or having a Mazda, at the end of the day, it brings you from point A to point B. And maybe for the first week or so, having the Lamborghini would be like crazy. But I feel like after a couple of months, it would just be like a normal car, right? Because I remember before I had a car, I was like, yo, if I had a car, that would be so fucking sick. And then, of course, when I got my car, which is a normal car, a Mazda, for the first couple of weeks, I was like, yo, it's so fucking sick. I fucking love my car. And now, 3 years after, I'm like, yeah, it's a normal car. I mean, there's nothing there. But if I go back, I was like, in the beginning when I didn't have a car, I was like, yo, that's so fucking sick to have a car, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I feel like once you have a lot of money, like you get bored of it because you just get accustomed to it and it becomes something that's normal. So money doesn't bring happiness. I've always believed that and I always stood by that position. It brings comfort, right? You don't have to stress for bills. You're always going to have a roof over your head, clothes on your back, food in your belly. So it gives you comfort. And also it makes you be capable to help people, right? You can send money to your relatives, to your close friends, close family members. It's nice to help around. And money, like it or not, is a tool which is important. You need money in order to pay your bills, to have food, and just to function in society. You can go on trips, have protection, have safety, and all of that. But I feel like money won't bring you happiness and it won't bring you joy and it won't bring joy to your soul. I feel like the most important, and I feel like everyone says this, all the biggest, most successful people that I listen to, they all have the same argument. And they say that the only way that you can be happy, that you can have a feeling of joy, and where you will be excited to wake up every single morning and attack the day, is when you find your passion and you just chase your passion. Regardless what it is, when you find your passion, focus on your passion. And your passion is something that you're willing to do and you're capable to do, even if you don't make any money out of it. You don't give a fuck. You simply do it because you're passionate about it. Like, there's a question, this is actually the best question you can ask yourself. If you don't know what your passion is, ask yourself this question. If I had all the money in the world and all the status, all the fame, I had all of those all of those things that are superficial. If I had all those superficial things, what would I do with my days, right? Let's say you have all the money in the world, all the fame and all the status. You're still going to be alive, right? You still have 24 hours in a day. You still have 7 days a week. You still have 12 months a year, right? What are you going to do with your days? You already have all the money in the world, so you're not going to go find a job so you make money and pay your bills. You already have all the money in the world. You're not going to go seek something in order to become famous because you're already the most famous guy on earth. You're not going to go and seek a job or seek something that will make you more powerful. You're already the most powerful man on planet Earth. What would you do with your days? Would you paint? Would you maybe do podcasts? Would you maybe play a sport? Would you maybe train people? A fitness coach? Would you maybe be a police officer because you find that interesting and find that fun? Would you maybe be a detective? Would you maybe sell cars because you love talking to people and you love selling stuff? Would you maybe be a real estate agent because you love sales and you love talking to people, meeting new people, selling cars, whatever? Would you maybe be a psychologist because you like psychology and you like helping out people? Would you be a politician because you're actually interested in the law, making new laws, debating new laws, what's the best way? Would you be a lawyer because you find that really interesting, being a lawyer, debating laws, defending people, having justice, whatever? Would you be a judge? What would you do with your days? The answer to your question, whatever your answer might be, that is your passion. Now, you take your passion, you do it every single day, you work hard, you never give up, and one day, no matter what your passion is, one day you will make money out of it, and one day it will pay all your bills, and one day it will be the only thing you will do, and that is the only thing that will bring you joy and will bring you fulfillment and will bring you peace of mind. Because if you're only looking for money, for fame or status, that's not going to bring you peace of mind, it's not going to bring you joy, and it's not going to bring you happiness. It's not. The only thing that will bring you joy, happiness, and fulfillment of soul is when you find your passion and you chase your passion and you don't give up. In my opinion, that's how I see it. Okay, so still let's get into the Manosphere. Okay, so we talked about the history and the origin, toxic masculinity, and just general masculinity. Let's talk about a woman body count and man body count. So I've always had the same opinion, right? In my opinion, a man with a high body count isn't the same as a woman with a high body count. It's not the same. It's something that they talk a lot about in the Manosphere, and it's something that I do actually agree with them. It's not the same thing. A man with a high body count isn't the same as a woman with a high body count. First of all, because the man with a high body count has to be someone. He has to be either competent, have money, he has to have something which make other men want to be like him, right? That's a fact. And a man who is capable of sleeping with a lot of women, that's a high value man, and that's a fact, right? Like it or not, that is a fact. But at the same time, it's scientifically proven, and it's proven by many psychologists, that if you're a guy and your goal is to sleep with as much women as possible, you only need to have one trait: being extroverted. That's it. You don't need money. You don't need looks. Although, if you take person A and person B and both persons are extroverted, but one is better looking and one has money and the other doesn't and the other one is ugly, then person B, the person who is extroverted, but on top of that, he has good looks and he has money and he has status, then of course he's going to sleep with more women than the guy who's simply just extroverted. But at the same time, if you take person A and person B, person A is extroverted, has no money, has no status, and has no looks, but he has extroversion. Person B is introverted, shy, but has good looks, has money, and has status. Person A will sleep with more women than person B. That's a fact. Because it's proven scientifically and by many psychologists and many researchers that the guys who sleep with the most women are the guys who are the most extroverted and are the guys who want it the most. The guys who want to sleep with women the most, not by speech, but by action. So literally approaching women and approaching many different women and just keep approaching them and not being afraid of rejection. Those are the guys who will sleep with the most women. Then, of course, on top of that, you can add, imagine, plus he's good looking, helps even more. He has money, helps even more. Has status, has fame, helps even more. So there's also that. But the main one is being extroverted and having extroversion. That's the most important. So to get back. So yes, a guy with a high body count isn't the same as a woman with a high body count. Because, and this is a fact, if you take an average looking woman, if she wants to have 100 kills inside of 10 days, she can. She can. If you take an average looking woman, and she wants to sleep with a guy tonight, she can. She can simply go in the streets, ask 10 guys, and out of those 10 guys, 9 guys will say, okay, yeah, let's do it. 9 guys. And I'm counting guys who are not single, guys who are in a relationship, guys who are married. She simply approaches 10 guys in a bar and says word for word, do you want to have sex tonight? 9 out of those 10, if it's not 10 out of 10, 9 out of those 10 guys will say, yes, let's do it. And she's average looking. So she's not ugly. She's not beautiful. She's not cute. She's not mediocre. She's average looking. 9 out of 10, and maybe even 10 out of 10 will say, yes, okay, fuck it, let's do it. Now, keep in mind, I used an average looking woman. I take a phenomenally good looking guy, right? Fucking Elvis Presley in his prime, okay? I take him, I put him in a bar. If he approaches 10 women, there's no hello, how are you? There's no can I buy you a drink? There's no small talk. There's no getting to know her. He simply asks them, let's have sex tonight. If he's lucky, 1 or 2 out of 10 will say yes. Even that maybe is pushing it. Like, I don't fucking know. I never did the research. I never did it. But even maybe that is pushing it. And like I said, I took the best looking guy. And this is an average looking woman. That's a fact. And even, I might add, even if that guy, not only is he good looking, he's famous and he has money, even then, it's going to be less than the average looking girl. Because for the average looking girl, every single guy is going to say yes. Every single fucking guy. If I take 100 guys and she asks 100 guys in one bar in one night, 98 out of those 100 are going to say, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. I take that guy. So I take the pinnacle of a man, good looking, rich, famous, status, power, whatever. He asks 100 women in a bar, simply the same words as her, let's have sex tonight. Out of those 100, 30 or 40 are going to say yes. 30 or 40. So do you see the level of difference? And then now let's make it fair. Average looking woman, average guy in terms of looks, in terms of money, in terms of power, status, and all the rest, right? 2 out of 100 will say yes. And I'm being really fucking generous. If it's not 0, I'm saying 2 just so people don't say, okay, you're abusing. 2 women out of 100 will say yes to that guy if he approaches 100 women in one night and simply says, do you want to have sex tonight? 2 out of 100 will say yes. So do you see the difference? That is the difference. And that's why a guy with a high body count has a higher, it's something that's good. That's why he's seen as a king amongst other men, because we men, we understand this, what I just said, what I just explained. We all understand it and we all accept it because we know that that is the truth. That's why a man who has a high body count, in a way, we respect him, and in a way, not that you look up to him, but you just respect it. But a woman with a high body count, we don't respect it. Why? Because we know that it's easy for her to have a high body count. She simply has to approach any guy. Doesn't even have to be single, can be in a relationship, can even be married with kids. And ask those guys, do you want to have sex? 98 out of 100 will say yes. That's a fact. That's why the Manosphere talks about this a lot. And this is something that I actually agree with them. Now, to what extent to the extent that I just explained. Some of them go a bit more further. I feel like that's a bit to the extremes. I feel like now with social media, we're more in the extremes. But I feel like with time, we're becoming more and more authentic because we understand that the extremes, it's not being authentic. People sometimes play a role. They put on a mask, which I feel like that is what social media was before, right? I feel like in the beginning, social media was all about being fake, not being authentic, and just showing the world what we think the world wants to see: money, status, fame, good looking, whatever. But I feel like slowly becoming more, we want people to be authentic, and we follow people who are authentic, and we love people who are authentic. It's something that's normal. We love people who are authentic, who aren't afraid to be vulnerable, who aren't afraid to show their bad side, their weak side, and to show their flaws. We don't like people who are flawless. First of all, no one is flawless, but we don't like people who portray to be flawless. We love people who aren't afraid to say that they're flawed and that they have flaws. That is what we like, and that is what we respect. That's why I feel like that's also one thing which makes live streaming so popular, is that there's no edits. We see the person for who he or she is, and we like it because we associate ourselves more with people who are authentic than with people who are fake and who fake a lifestyle and who fake their personality and who fake their life. We don't like fake. Humans in general, I feel like this goes for the entirety of human beings. We don't like fake shit, and we don't like fake people. We love people who are authentic, and we love things and situations that are real and that are authentic and that are truthful and that are life form. That is a real thing. That is what we like. I feel like it's something that is ingrained inside of every single human being, and that is something that is in our subconscious mind because it's just how we are. That's how I see it. So I feel like now with social media, it's getting more and more. We follow people who are authentic, and we respect more people who are authentic than people who fake their personalities, who fake their lifestyle because they want to appear flawless on social media. No one likes that. And we all see through the bullshit, and we all know deep down, we know that we're flawed, but at the same time, we understand that every single human being isn't perfect and that we're all flawed. And we fuck with people. We love people who aren't afraid to show their flawed side, their weak side, their vulnerable side, because they're showing their authentic self. That is what we like, and that is what we respect. So I feel like now with social media, it's becoming more about being authentic and less about showing a perfect lifestyle, showing a lifestyle that we want other people to envy from us because we make it perfect in front of the camera. We make it perfect for social media, but that's not the case, right? Yes, okay, so let's talk about sexism and feminism. Let's start off with sexism. The Manosphere, in general, is really sexist. Like I said in the beginning of the episode, there's a difference between saying that men and women are different, but we are equal. That is what I believe, and that is what I preach. I feel like I said it so many times, men and women, we're different, but we are equal. Men aren't above women, and women aren't above men. We're equal, but we are, in general, wired differently. Like it or not, we're different, right? There's man, there's woman. We're different, but we're equal. But when it comes to the Manosphere, many people and many actors from the Manosphere, not only do they believe that men and women are different, but they believe that women are inferior to men. And that is where sexism comes into play. Because when you truly believe that women are inferior to men and that they don't deserve the same rights and the same laws as men, that is simply being a sexist. That is sexism. It's like me saying that black people are inferior to white people. That's simply racist. That's simply racist. Now saying that, you know what, in general, black culture and white culture in general is different, that's not racist. That's just simply looking at society through sociological lenses and psychological lenses. That's different. But saying word for word that a women are inferior to men and shouldn't have the same rights as men, that is simply being a sexist. And that is what I am against. I'm against people who are truly sexist, who are racist, and who are really homophobic. I'm against them, of course. I mean, who isn't? How can you live in 2026 with all these foundings and all these scientific knowledge that we have and all this knowledge that we have, truly be racist, sexist, or homophobic. That's a bit crazy. But to say that women and men in general are different, but we are equal, that's not sexist. Maybe some people can see it as sexist. That's not sexist. It's a proven fact that men and women in general are different. Our brains are wired differently. In general, men are better at driving cars, better at driving planes, better at driving boats, better at driving things. That is a proven fact that in general, the male brain is better wired for driving cars, driving planes, and etc. That's why when you look at universities, and Jordan Peterson talked about this a lot, is that societies who have gone the furthest for gender equality, those are also the societies where you see the most differences in sexes. And you can see this when it comes to universities. In general, women are more interested in humans and men are more interested in things. In general, I'm a man and I'm more interested in humans. That's why I study social sciences and I study sociology. That's why when I went to university, I would never go to fucking engineering because my mind just doesn't give a fuck about engineering and I don't want to know nothing about engineering. But I'm more curious about philosophy, sociology, psychology, social sciences, and human sciences. That's why I went into social sciences, right? In general, when I look at my classes, there's more women than men. There are also men, but in general, there's more women. If you take other classes, like let's say nursing, it's like 95% women, 5% guys. Because in general, women care more about people and men in general care more about things. That's a fact. That's why when you look at social sciences, especially in universities, there's going to be more women than men because social sciences is a study of societies, of human beings, human interactions, human psychology. You can even add philosophy, whatever. It's a study of human beings. And then if you look at engineering, I don't know the percentages, but Jordan Peterson said that it was in general, it was like 85% man, 15% woman, and maybe even said like 95% man and 5% woman, because in general, men are more interested in things, engineering, motors, fucking garage, cars, airplanes, spaceships, whatever. In general, men are more interested in those things. That's why even if you look at like, let's say law, there's more women who study law than there are guys who study law, because first of all, it is like the study of human beings, laws, and how we should interact and what laws humans should have, how to defend someone in court and what, etc. So in general, women prefer more humans, are more interested in humans, and guys in general are more interested in things. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a woman who's more interested in things. I mean, women who are in engineering, they care more about things than I do because I'm in social sciences and I care more about humans, right? But in general, like Jordan Peterson said, societies who have gone the furthest in gender equality are also the societies who have the biggest differences when it comes to genders. You can see even more, like he said, in Norway, like in Scandinavian countries. Those are the countries who literally went the furthest for gender equality. When it comes to fields that are female dominated, they're even more female dominated than countries who didn't go as far when it comes to gender equality. Like let's say Germany, they went far for gender equality, but not as much as these Scandinavian countries. So that's why, like I said, believing that women are inferior to men and that they don't deserve the same rights as men, like people, let's say society in the 1800s, that's sexist. Believing that someone is simply inferior to you because of his skin color, that's racist. Believing that someone is inferior to you because of his political affiliation or because of his religion, that's also not correct, right? Or believing that gay people should have the same rights as straight people, that's simply being homophobic. But saying that there are in general differences between, let's say, white Westerners, Christians, and Muslim Arabic countries, saying that there are differences in the way they see life, in their laws, in their societies, in their philosophies, in their way of life, that's not racist. That's just simply seeing life and seeing societies for what it is. There's nothing racist saying that a Western society is different to Arabic society, and that in general, people who live in Western societies have a different mentality than Muslim societies. That's a fact. If you look at their laws, if you look at their way of life, if you look at everything that makes a society, you're going to see that it's different societies. Why? Because their way of life, their philosophy, their values is just different. That's not racist. That's not Islamophobic. It's just simply seeing their world for what it is. But now saying that people who are Arabic are below you because they're Arabic, that's also, I mean, it's not racist because Arab isn't a race. It's like it's an ethnicity, but that's not correct. But simply saying that there are differences in terms of values, and that maybe it is fair to say that one society is more developed than the other. There's nothing wrong there, in my opinion. Saying that Western society in general is the most developed society on planet Earth when it comes to technology, and when it comes to laws, when it comes to human rights. I mean, I agree, because if you look at some societies in, let's keep with Muslim countries, some societies, women don't even have rights, right? So that's not a humane society. How can you say a society where it's extremely Islamic and women don't have their rights, to say that society is humane? In my opinion, that's kind of crazy, right? Because that's not a fact. So, well, okay, I went a little bit more. Okay, also one thing that is really big in the manosphere, there's a lot of neo-Nazism. And that's fucking crazy. I cannot believe that there's still some people, especially younger people, who praise Hitler. I mean, how the fuck can you praise Hitler? He's one of the most evil human beings to ever exist. But I feel like maybe it's a trend. Nick Fuentes said many times that he finds Hitler really fucking cool. That's crazy. But at the same time, in the manosphere, as much as there is a lot of neo-Nazism, there's also a lot of hatred towards Jews and a lot of anti-Semitism. And there is a lot of also, if I might add, crazy conspiracy theories regarding Jews. And that's fucking crazy. And that is where I disagree a lot and just completely with the manosphere. They have a lot of crazy conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories that Jews run the world. Conspiracy theories that Jews, they control us like puppets, and that they run the world, and that they're secretly wanting to destroy the Western society and the white man, the Christian man, the Muslim man, whatever. First of all, to say that Jews run the world, that's crazy. To believe, like I think it was Sneeko in the documentary that said that there's like this, that there's like this secret organization of Jewish people who hide somewhere, and they secretly pull all the strings, and they call all the shots, and they secretly run the world. That's a conspiracy theory, and that's an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, and that's fucking crazy to have that point of view. I don't know if he's being true, if he's just maybe playing a role because he knows that he's gonna get a lot of clicks, but it's crazy to think that way. And it's actually really anti-Semitic. Yes, in general, if you look at the Jewish population in general, they're very successful and they make a lot of money and they are in really good positions. But the reason why that is the case is not because they hide or because they have like this secret team that is like hidden somewhere, or like they control the world from an underground base, whatever. It's simply because in general, Jews are really smart. And they're really competent in general. No one gave it to them. They simply took it by being smart, by being competent, and by doing the right moves, right? It is how it is. If you're an individual who's really smart, who works really hard, who's really competent, and who's really ambitious, you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, regardless of your race, regardless of your religion, regardless of your sexual orientation, regardless of anything. If you're really competent, really smart, you'll accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. If, of course, you're also really hardworking and all the other shit you need to accomplish a lot. The reason that Jews, in general, Jews are so smart and that they do have really good positions when it comes to positions of power and business, whatever, is because they're just really smart and they work hard and they're really competent individuals. It's as simple as that, right? No one gave it to them, they took it. But at the same time, to say that they run the world and that they're like, that they want to destroy the world, that they want to destroy the white man, that they want to destroy the white Christian man, that they want to destroy the Muslim man, and that they secretly want to destroy the world and just control the world, that's anti-Semitic, and that's a conspiracy theory. That's just fucking crazy. The people who run this world are the people who are competent, are the people who are ambitious, and who want to run the world, and who do the necessary steps, the smart steps, and the competent steps in order to attain certain positions, which will make them powerful, right? Elon Musk is white and he's Christian, right? He's probably top 5 most powerful individuals in the world. No one gave it to him. He became powerful by becoming competent and then by creating a lot of wealth, having a lot of money, and by having a lot of influence and by having a lot of status. He took it. Everyone who's powerful is because he took it out of competency, being smart, working hard, whatever. That is what it is. So people who hate on Jews, those are simply people who are jealous and who envy Jews, because in general, not every single Jew. I can find a lot of Jews are fucking dumb and they're just normal human beings and they're average or even below average. But in general, there's even like a study that was made that in general, Jews have the highest IQ. That's a fact. Maybe because they study more, maybe because their culture, their way of life is all about being smart, making the right moves, being competent, going to school, going to university, getting good degrees, getting good jobs, working hard. So that probably plays a big part. But Jews have a lot of power and a lot of money because they're smart. They're really fucking smart. And there's only one reason why people hate Jews: out of jealousy and out of envy. No other reason. Why would you hate someone that's competent and that makes a lot of money and that is really smart and really hardworking? The only valid and logical reason for you to hate them is because you're jealous of him. It's because you're jealous of them. That's the only reason why, right? I mean, why would you hate someone that's competent, someone that's smart, hardworking, intelligent, educated, all other things that are considered as positive things to have? All those things are something that we consider something that is good, right? If you have a son, would you want your son to be smart? Of course you would want for your son to be smart. Would you want for your son to be competent? Of course you would want for your son to be competent. Would you want for your son to be educated? Of course you would. Would you want for your son to be hard worker? Of course you would. Why? Because they're all positive and good traits to have. So why would you hate a population? Why would you hate an ethnic group for them having good traits? Because you're jealous and because you envy them. Although in my opinion, like I said, it's all about individual. Like I said, there's many Jews who are really smart, really competent, and really hardworking. But at the same time, there's many Jews who are dumb, who aren't hardworking, who aren't competent, and just live a normal life, working a normal 9 to 5. Just as much as it goes for white people, blacks, Muslims, Indians, Asians, whatever. At the end of the day, it's not for which group you come from, but it's who you are as an individual that counts. It's not important if your group is smart and competent or hardworking. What is important is, are you smart? Are you competent? Are you hardworking? Are you an accomplished individual? That is what is important, is who you are, not who your group is, not what your group represents, but what is important. And the only thing that is important is, who are you? Are you competent? What do you represent? Are you hardworking? Do you face your fears? Are you close to achieving your dreams? Are you someone who's chasing his dreams? The only thing that matters is who you are as a person. That is the only thing that matters, right? That is the only fucking thing that matters. People need to stop having a group mentality. You don't win when you have a group mentality. You only lose. The only way you can win is when you have an me mentality, individualistic mentality. And this is what I mean is, the only thing that you should care is who you are as a person, right? If someone says, you know what, in general, Serbians are dumb, but if I know that I'm not dumb, I'm not going to give a fuck. Why? Because I only care for who I am. I'm not going to care for what my group represents, because I am not necessarily my group. I am Andrei Delic. I am me, and I only care that who I am, what I accomplish, what I stand for, how smart I become, how competent I become, and what dreams I accomplish. That is the only thing that matters. Like, there was one episode I saw from The Sopranos where Tony Soprano explains to them that you guys, to his friends who are Italian American like him, and they kept complaining about how Italian Americans get a bad rep, how people have a bad image of them. And Tony Soprano simply said, guys, stop with this fucking group mentality. Stop with this group mentality. And he said, and he pointed to his friend, he said, you have one of the biggest clubs in New Jersey, you have a smoking hot wife. Why is that the case? Is it because you're Italian American, or is it because you are who you are as an individual? And it's because he is who he is as an individual. Does Elon Musk have all that money and all that power and all that status because he's white, because he's Christian? No, he has all that money, all that status, and all that power because he's Elon Musk, because he is who he is. That's what matters, right? There's many white Christians who are really poor, who never accomplish anything, who aren't competent, who aren't smart. But Elon Musk doesn't give a fuck about them because he is who he is. That's the only thing that matters. But people now, not just nowadays, but since ever, they love having group mentality. But when you have a group mentality, you get offended over things, you get sad and you get mad over things and over people that you cannot control and over things that you can't control and you don't have power over. So what is the point of getting emotional about things that you have no power over? Why would I get mad if let's say there's a Serbian on the news and he's on the news because he did a disgusting crime. He killed 5 innocent civilians. Why would I get mad over that? I don't give a fuck. He did it. I didn't do it. I don't give a fuck that he's Serbian like me. I don't care that he's Serbian Canadian like me. It has nothing to do with me. Who he is has nothing to do with who I am and who I am. It has nothing to do with me. Just because he's Serbian Canadian, it has nothing to do with me. He did that crime. That is the crime that I would never do because I'm not a stupid motherfucker, a crazy, sick bastard like he is. Even though we're technically both Serbian Canadian, and he has nothing to do with me. And that is the only thing that matters. That's why I hate when people have a group mentality. I mean, not that I hate it, but I just find it dumb, and I try to explain to them that it's not a right thing to have, because in general, the people I hung around with when I was younger were mostly immigrants, and immigrants in general have a group mentality, and they cling to their group, and they get all emotional when their group is badly represented, and when someone from their group does something and that like they feel like what he did is going to misrepresent who he is. And that's dumb. Because if I see a Serbian Canadian doing something that I don't agree with and that the world is going to bash him for it, I'm just going to be like, hey, he did what he had to do. I would never do it. And that guy isn't me. So I don't give a fuck what he did. I didn't do it. Simple as that. I'm going to become who I'm going to become. And I only care that me, Andrei Delic, I accomplish my dreams. I become as competent as I can. I become as smart as I can. And I accomplish all of my dreams. That is the only thing I care about. And that is always going to be the only thing I care about, is who I am, who Andrei Delic is, and not who my group is and what my group represents. I don't give a fuck about that. And so should you not care about that. But like I said, in the Manosphere, there's a lot of hatred towards Jews. There's a lot of anti-Semitism, and that's fucking crazy. They hate Jews out of jealousy and out of envy, because in general, they have the highest IQ. That's a fact. They're probably the smartest group of people in the world. And they are really successful, and they do hold many positions of power, and they do have a lot of money in general. Why? Because they're really smart, really competent, really hardworking, and they make the right moves. So people shouldn't hate Jews. They should applaud Jewish people, and they should look to the Jewish community and look to what they could learn and actually learn something from them, because like it or not, Jews, since the beginning of humanity, have always been persecuted by everyone else. They've been hated on by everyone, and they found a way to survive and now to prosper a lot. Israel is a really prosperous country. Hate Israel all you want. Israel is a really economically good country, really democratic country, and a really good country in general. It's one of the best countries in the world. And Jewish people created that country, and they're really prosperous. And like I said, you can be anti-Semitic all you want. You can hate Israel all you want. They're not going anywhere, and they're just going to get better and better, and no one's going to stop them. You can't stop them. So instead of hating on them, instead of having jealousy and envy, first of all, you should have compassion, because everything that they survived throughout history, getting enslaved by ancient Egyptians, and then just recently, not even 100 years ago, not neo-Nazis, but Nazis literally wanted to kill every single Jew. How many Jews died in the Holocaust? It's like 6 million. How many people suffered concentration camps because of Hitler, because of Nazis? It's crazy. They suffered through a lot. And for them to be able to surpass that and then to prosper as much as they do right now, we should applaud them. And we should even look to them for inspiration and even look to them for knowledge and whatever. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's all about who you are as an individual. So where was I? We talked about polygamy, body count, toxic masculinity. Okay, so this is something that I really like about the Manosphere, because the Manosphere is all about improving yourself and self-development. And I'm always going to be for you improving who you are as a person and for self-development. Always. They do preach a lot about being in a mental and in physical shape, which is really fucking important, and which is something that I value a lot, being in really good physical shape and in really good mental shape. Because when you're in really good physical shape, you're going to be in really good mental shape. When you're in really good mental shape, you're going to be in really good physical shape. So those are two things that are really important. Facing your fears is something that they prone a lot. To go outside in the world and face your fears, face your dragons, it's something that I preach a lot, and that I respect a lot. Working hard in a world where people can be really lazy, working hard is something that, I mean, how can you not praise working hard? And how can you not love and respect people who work hard? And how can you not preach hard work? Everyone should preach hard work because it's something that's good. So the self-development aspect of the Manosphere is really fucking good. Like it or not, yes, Andrew Tate and other actors of the Manosphere did say things that are pretty sexist, racist, and whatever. But one thing that he do also talk a lot about is self-development, and I'm all for it. Right? I'm all for self-development, becoming the best version of yourself, eating healthy, going to the gym, getting strong, getting your affairs in order, making a lot of money, facing your fears, chasing your dreams, being relentless, never giving up, working hard. That is something that I prone a lot. Not that I prone a lot, that I preach a lot, and that I talk a lot about on my podcast, and that I respect a lot. So that is an aspect of the Manosphere that I really like and really respect. Now, there's also one aspect that just recently became really popular, especially from a clavicular, is looksmaxxing. Now, that's a bit fucking crazy, right? Some aspects, I don't know how looksmaxxing came into the Manosphere, but I guess because it's part of self-development, and I'm all for self-development. And when I watched the interview of Clavicular with Piers Morgan, the way I understood it is looksmaxxing in a way can be good, because looksmaxxing, technically what it is basically improving your looks. There's nothing wrong there, but there are certain extremes when it comes to improving your looks, right? Going on a diet, really good way to improve your looks and to improve your health, right? It's really good. But the things that looksmaxxers also advocate for is really fucking crazy. Punching yourself in your cheekbones or in your jawline so it becomes sharper, that's fucking crazy. Not only is it not something that's scientifically proven, and it's actually scientifically proven that it doesn't work, and like no fucking shit, it doesn't work. That's fucking crazy. And the reason I'm talking about this, because in the beginning when I heard of Clavicular, it happened on the first time I heard about him was when he was on the Jack Neal podcast. In the beginning, I thought it was a joke, because when I watched the clip, in that clip, he said that he does meth, and he uses a lot of drugs so that he suppresses his appetite so that he remains lean. And I thought it was a joke. I was like, okay, this has to be, what do you mean you smoke crack? What do you mean you smoke meth to suppress your appetite? Like, do you understand how fucked up that is? Yes, you're going to suppress your appetite, but smoking meth isn't healthy, right? Like, it's really unfucking healthy for you. So it's actually contradictory, right? That's number one. So in the beginning, I thought that looksmaxxing was a joke, like the way Clavicular does it. I thought it was a joke. But the more time went on and the more clips I see from him and from other people who are advocates of looksmaxxing, the more I realize that, it's actually not a joke. Like, some people actually believe in this, and that's fucking dumb. Let me let me say it like this, okay? Punching yourself in the cheekbones or on the jawline, it doesn't work, and it's not going to make your features more prominent. Getting plastic surgery, at the end of the day, it will only make you uglier and not better looking. And that's the case for everyone, right? Anyone throughout history, all these celebrities who always did plastic surgery, they always ended up looking worse than better. That's a fact. Why? Because it's fucking plastic, right? It's not good looking. It's not nice. And again, like I said, I'm all for looksmaxxing when it comes to being in shape, being healthy, going on a diet if you need a diet, that shit, taking care of you, hygiene and all of that. I'm all for it. But when it comes to like last week, I was in a nightclub and I couldn't believe my eyes. I was in a nightclub drinking my drink and I looked over and I saw two guys. One guy tilted his head backwards and the other guy, I kid you not, may God kill me right now if I'm lying. I kid you not, I saw his friend going over and punching the guy who tilted his head backwards, punching him in the cheekbone, multiple multiple little times, in the right cheekbone and in the left cheekbone. I was looking at that. They were like maybe 19 or 20, so they were young. And I was like, those guys are doing that because they heard clavicular saying that that's good and that will make your cheekbones like more prominent and sharper. I was looking at that. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, this looksmaxxing thing is actually a thing. Young people are actually getting influenced by it. Not everyone, but some young people who are mentally unstable and mentally not strong, they're getting influenced by it. And me being a podcaster, whenever I see topics that I can discuss and talk about on my podcast, of course I'm going to talk about it and discuss it on my podcast. So that's when I was like, okay, let me address this looksmaxxing thing. And guys, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Looks, it's all about genetics. All about genetics. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's all about fucking genetics. It's always been like that. It's like that currently, and it's always going to be like that. Always, right? Always. It's always been like that. It's always going to be like that. Looks, it's 99% about genetics, and the other 1% is about maintaining a healthy weight so that you don't have fat in your face and that you have a good structure of a body. So it's 99% genetics and it's 1% diet, maybe not 1% diet working out. It's like 10% of actually keeping yourself in shape and working out. But if I'm being honest, it's maybe even 99% genetics, because if you're born with, let's say, shorter limbs, you can go to the gym all you want. You can have the diet you want. You're not going to make your limbs longer. If you're born with a big head, you can go to the gym all you want. You can eat as healthy as you want. You're not going to make your head smaller. And the rest goes on. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Looks, it's 99% genetic. And it's always been like that. It's always going to be like that. Clavicular is playing with insecurities, especially now, men in 2026, like they're way more vain than what they were before. And this goes for in general, not all men, but they're more vain than what they were. So now they care more about their looks than before. And of course, like I said, looksmaxxing is good if it is something that's healthy. Staying in shape, going to the gym, maintaining a healthy body fat, having a diet, eating healthy food, having good hygiene, all of that, that's good. But when it comes that you want to have double jaw surgery like clavicular, that's fucking crazy. When you put Botox on your face at the age of 20, that's fucking crazy. When you do, like, I don't know what else you can do, lip fillers. When you do lip fillers at the age of 21, that's also fucking crazy. Like recently, I was talking with a couple of people from my class, and the guy was telling me how his girlfriend recently got all these procedures on her face, from Botox, from a lip flip. I'm not sure what it is, but he told me that he told me that it's not lip fillers, it's a lip flip. I guess maybe you flip your lips. I don't know. She also got something like in her eyes or in like the cheekbone area. She put something in her jawline, so it's like more defined. She put a lot of shit. And then I asked him, I'm like, I don't know the guy, so I'm not going to get all personal. I'm just like, how old is she? 23 years old. She's 23 fucking years old. What do you mean you're putting Botox in your face? You're 23 fucking years old. Okay, maybe if you're 60 or 70 and you're like a public image, you're always in the public eye, and then you have a couple of wrinkles, you want to like tone it down. You're already 60 or 70, so like who really gives a fuck? Maybe then you put a little Botox. I don't know. Even then I wouldn't. Personally, I wouldn't, because I would never put anything. God made me the way he made me. But hey, each to his own. There it makes more sense. But to do all these procedures and all this work at the age of 23, imagine in 10 years when she's going to be 33. 33 is still really young. What is her face going to look like? And let's be honest. If plastic surgery was good for you, was healthy for you, why is it the case that all plastic surgeons, none of them do it? None of them do it. Whenever I see a plastic surgeon talk, whenever I see a plastic surgeon do social media clips or go on YouTube or go on documentaries, they all say that they never did anything. And when you look at their face, there's never anything done. Why? Because they know that it's all dumb. It's all playing on people's insecurities. And it's all about making money. Like it or not, we live in a capitalistic country. Those plastic surgeons, they know that it's not worth it. It's all unhealthy for your face, for your body, BBLs, whatever. They all know that it's unhealthy. But at the same time, they know that they're going to make a lot of fucking money. They're not psychologists. They're plastic surgeons. They live in a capitalistic country and they have to make money. And they know that the more procedures they find, the more procedures they invent, the more money they're going to make. That's a fact. And also, if I might add, take any plastic surgeon, ask them, would you let your daughter do the procedures you're doing on other women? They're all going to say no. I'm ready to bet $1,000 that they're all going to say no. Why? Because they know that it's all unhealthy and it's all bullshit. They know it, but they know it's all a scam, but they want to make money. They want to make money. Scam. Now, when I say scam, I'm not saying it's like an Indian scam. Oh, give me your fucking phone and your social insurance number so I can fucking like get this account and then I will transfer you $20,000 like these Nigerian princes. Not that type of scam, but they know that it's not healthy and it's not good for your body. That's why if you were to ask any plastic surgeon, first of all plastic surgeons that I see, none of them does plastic surgery on their own face, on their own body. None of them do it because I think they work in it, so they know like, yo, this is actually fucking toxic for your body, so they don't do it. But ask them, would you let your daughter do it? Not your wife, because maybe he has a bimbo wife and he only wants his wife to look good. Ask, would you let your daughter do plastic surgery? They will all say no. They will all say no. And if I might add, if you have a naturally beautiful woman and a plastic beautiful woman, all guys, 99.9% of guys are going to choose a naturally beautiful woman over the plastic beautiful woman. Every single guy. Believe me, I'm speaking for all guys right now. That's a fact. It's always been a fact. So that was pretty much it. So that was for the Manosphere. History, origin, pretty much touched on everything. Let me end it here. Let me do a conclusion of the Manosphere. So the Manosphere, masculinity, is something that existed ever since humans exist, right? Now with social media, especially the past 5 years, especially it started more with like Andrew Tate. And like it or not, our society is like with wokeism and with all of the shit. Of course, it can be seen as less traditionally masculine. So of course, I feel like that is where the rise of the Manosphere came from, Andrew Tate. Like I said, the only thing that's fucking up the Manosphere is when they go to the extremes. When it comes to toxic masculinity, when it comes to sexism, when it comes to hating Jews, anti-Semitism, all this stuff, when they go to the extremes, it's wrong. But if you look at simply saying that men need to be man, because there's nothing wrong with man being man, there's nothing wrong with being masculine, I'm all for it and I agree. But I feel like the Manosphere is something that is popular for the past like 5 years. And like it or not, it remains social media. And social media, nowadays, it's all about clips. And in order for you to have good clips, sometimes you have to go to the extremes. Some people are more ready than others to say whatever it takes just to become viral, just to go viral. And like I said, yes, I feel like social media is really more in the extremes, but I feel like it's going to get more and more about being authentic and about being just truthful and about being real. At the end of the day, I feel like it's slowly going to become more authentic and more real. But for now, and even since the beginning of social media, it's always been for the extremes, and you have to go to the extremes. So that's why I feel like, that's why sometimes maybe Andrew Tate sometimes abuses it a little bit, because he knows that his clip is gonna get better than if he wasn't to say actually what he believes. But hey, I mean, what he says in front of a camera, maybe he doesn't agree with it 100%, or maybe he does. We're never gonna know. But you have to take his word for it. So whatever he says, I mean, I don't know him as a person, so I don't know what he actually believes. So I'm gonna go for it. But like I said, the Manosphere, there's nothing wrong to it. It's not necessarily good or bad. It's just when they go to the extremes, when it comes to sexism, toxic masculinity, when it comes to racism even, when it comes to being a neo-Nazi, when it comes to hating on Jews, being anti-Semitic, when it comes to advocating for crazy procedures, when it comes to looksmaxxing or plastic surgery, neo-Nazism, when it comes to, oh yeah, and also, this is a good point that Louis Theroux brought to Myron Gaines, is when Myron Gaines said that he had a relationship with his wife and that it's agreed that she's not allowed to be polygamous, but he's allowed to be polygamous. And then he asked him, Louis Theroux asked Myron Gaines, do you think your wife would prefer that she only has you for herself? And that's a good point. That's true. Of course, if there's a guy who's really rich, high status, and then he finds a woman who maybe doesn't have as much money, has much status, and she's more like innocent and she's more weak-minded, then maybe she's gonna like, okay, it's okay, honey, you're allowed to sleep with other women and I'm not allowed to be polygamous. It's okay. But if someone was to ask her, would you prefer for your man to be monogamous and only sleep with you? They would all say yes. Maybe they feel like they're in a position where they don't have power or authority, or they don't respect themselves enough, so they're like, okay, it's okay if he sleeps with other women. But if someone was to ask her, like Louis Theroux said, if I was to ask your wife, you're gonna have Myron all to yourself, would you like that? They would all say yes. I would prefer for my husband to not go and sleep with other women. I'm not gonna leave him. I'm still gonna stay with him. But if I had the choice between him sleeping with many different women or him just sleeping with me, every single one of those women who agreed to polygamy from her man, they would still all say, I would prefer for my man to only sleep with me. And that's a fact. So that was it for my thoughts on the Manosphere. See you next episode. Peace out.